Okay.
Greetings and shalom, everyone. I'm Brother Bryant from the Congregation of Israel, the Biblical School of Global Liberation for All Oppressed Peoples. I am also a representative of the Nazarene Messianic Party, and I would like to welcome everyone this evening to our book reading and dialogue. This evening, we'll be reading the book titled Capitalism Must Die. The author is Miss Stephanie McMillan. We've been reading this book for quite some time now. We had a little hiatus going on, but we had to take care of some things and come back to it. But this book is not just a breeze through or just skim through. It's a study, and that's why we encourage people to come along with us. That read along with us to have the book so they can read along with us, not just listen. Because we have to study the book. The book brings out a wealth of information on how to organize, and as the book says on the front of the cover, how to crush capitalism. And that's our objective here at the school, the Biblical School of Global Liberation for All Oppressed Peoples, is to crush capitalism. We're not trying to, make it sound like our agenda is anything else. We're fronting, full steam ahead. We're right on the front saying what we're saying. We're declaring that capitalism needs to go away. We need to reinstitute a new society. So without further ado, we have a reader for tonight. It's Comrade Sister Sue, and I'll mute my mic and let you take it away, sister.
Thanks, Brother Brant, and shalom, everyone that's listening to us on Facebook and on Zoom. So we're continuing reading Capitalism Must Die. And as Brother Brant said, we took a break. So we're going to start tonight on page 197. And it reads, Identity Politics. Capitalists use various forms of oppression of particular social categories to solidify their rule over society as a whole, for the ultimate purpose of reinforcing class domination. Reserving special forms of hell for certain sections of people makes the masses easier to control. In addition, dividing the working class against itself ideologically, fostering racism, xenophobia, misogyny, homophobia, also makes it easier to control the class as a whole and to squeeze more surplus value out of it, which is the only thing they really care about, their sole purpose and aim. Social categories are not the same as classes. Groups defined by gender, nationality, skin pigmentation, and so on cut across class lines. They can be members of any class, even when they are mainly pushed into one or another class. They are either oppressed or relatively privileged based on their identity categories, a condition distinct from their class position defined by their relationship to production. While fighting against and ending oppression is crucial, focusing the struggle on it does not address the fundamental contradiction of capitalism, and thus cannot end either classes or oppression. Oppression can change, be ameliorated, or shift to other groups without threatening the existence of capitalism. Capitalism is capable of absorbing the enlargement of democratic rights under the continued dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. For oppression to end, it must be addressed within the overall context of class struggle. Comrades, when I read this particular part of the chapter, it brought to mind exactly what's happening now in the COVID pandemic. The fact that the pandemic has brought out or brought to the fore um, the stark differences between the haves and the have-nots. A lot of persons have lost their jobs, they've become homeless, and there's a glaring differences within the society between the rich and the poor. On a wider scale, between rich countries and poor countries. And so we are seeing that the changes that are happening because of the pandemic and the vaccines and all the things that are happening is really positioning the capitalists in a more visible way. Persons who are observing will notice that if you follow the money, you will see motive behind some of what's going on. I don't know if you will agree with me, comrades, but it's interesting just now how to see the companies, the pharmaceuticals that are creating these vaccines are now jostling for the prime position in this capitalist against capitalist war, in my opinion. So at the bottom of page 197, there are some brief definitions. First one being domination, an ensemble of relations involving economic, political, and ideological power of one group over another. Secondly, we have power, the capacity to achieve one's aims, which may or may not entail prevailing against another's interests or will. Exploitation, paying less for labor power than the value of the product of that labor, minus other production costs. Oppression, the systematic subordination of specific social categories, which can involve structurally unequal conditions and rights. Repression, the use of force or threats of force for the purpose of domination. And we see a lot of this happening now with the vaccine mandates that are being discussed and are being enforced in some areas and giving the majority of the people little choice but to take the vaccine if they want to continue to earn a living in order to support their families. At the bottom of page 198, there is a cartoon that says, for the propertied bourgeois woman, her house is the world. And for the proletariat woman, the whole world is her house. So continuing on page 199, Stephanie Macmillan starts to discuss feminism. Title of this section says, Feminism does not go far enough. Feminism, more precisely, bourgeois feminism, is the struggle for gender equality, particularly equal rights. It does not address the framework in which inequality exists, does not challenge the system as a whole. Radical feminism, which is still reformist in spite of its name, asserts further that the oppression of women by men, aka patriarchy, is the fundamental or central form of domination that exists in human society. There are clear differences between these ideologies and proletarian ideology, which asserts that the fundamental form of domination in capitalist society is that of the capitalist class over the working class, and thus insists upon struggling against all forms of oppression in the context of class struggle. In the process of overturning capitalism, rather than confining our goal to achieving equality within it. Of course, class society, from its inception, well before capitalism, has been intertwined with the oppression of women. The division of labor based on gender within some hunter forager societies may have laid the groundwork for class divisions to develop in the first place. But as classes emerged, these became the fundamental divisions in society, which shape and determine the others and have to be overcome for the others to be resolved. Classes are social forces in struggle based on their relation to production. Sex or gender do not define classes, but cross class social categories. All the forms of oppression and domination and destruction that are perpetrated by capitalist society must be confronted and dealt with in the process of defeating capitalism. Contrary to what some class reductionists assert, we must not wait to deal with them until after class emancipation, or we will never achieve it. There is no such thing as partial revolution. It is all or nothing. But at the same time, they can't be resolved outside the process of class struggle. Class emancipation includes and encompasses smashing oppression as well as exploitation. Like all forms of oppression, the oppression of women serves the class in power and harms everyone else, not only women. Though it targets women in particular, it also divides and cripples the dominated classes as a whole. It makes us all less effective in our struggle for overall emancipation. Every woman deals with constant threats and attacks on body, mind, and spirit. This society creates an atmosphere designed to terrorize and psychologically footbind us. Not only, to, not only do these experiences inflict emotional trauma, they also commandeer and waste the time and energy of women, including those involved in the struggle for proletarian revolution. In our organizations, if we don't treat one another as human beings, as comrades, then we won't be able to function collectively at an optimal level. Oppressive behavior must be concretely addressed, whether it becomes an obstacle to our struggle, crushed as quickly and decisively as possible without obsessing over it. So we can all move on to work on our fundamental task. Measures might include exposing, isolating, or no longer working with an offender who doesn't change. They might include actively protecting and defending those under threat. Capitalism has many facets of evil. We have a lot of things we have to fight. Various forms of oppression are included in this. We have to be tough and determined, all of us, to not tolerate any harmful behavior in our ranks, while keeping our overall goals always in mind. We need more than equal rights, equal treatment, equal pay, equal assets, equal opportunity, egalitarian language, safer spaces. We need total emancipation for all inhabitants of the earth. So, in my observation of what's happening in the society in Jamaica with the oppression of women is um, women are seen as second class citizens. I don't know if it's the same in the US or Canada or the UK or any other place in Europe. Well, maybe in Afghanistan or similar Muslim countries. Um, but what has happened to a lot of the women, especially in the corporate environment, is that the struggle for equality has turned into something else. And that something else sometimes manifests itself as homosexuality. So women have morphed into men-like personalities in order to get ahead in the corporate world. And in some cases, they have come out as homosexual in order to protect their position in the organization. And so we find a lot of women no longer want to marry, they don't want to have children, they don't want to have a family, and they're not in relationships with men. And that is a lie from the pits of hell. Women have lost their place in society, and many women don't know what their role is supposed to be. What they see is that they don't get equal pay for equal work or qualifications or whatever it is. And so they are trying to be more masculine in order to get ahead. Comrades, I think it is our duty to educate our women so they understand their role in the society and not be caught up in the lie that says they have to be as strong as or exhibit these male qualities in order to be valued in the society. And this is one of the constructs that suits the capitalists in their endeavor to oppress and exploit the rest of us. And I feel that is something that we can act on from us because we know that it's not how it is supposed to be.
Yes, ma'am. Can I say something real quick, sister, so
Yes,
as not to
please,
come in?
please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. No, I thought that was very interesting that you brought that point out about the women and engaging in homosexuality due to this situation where as though they're being oppressed and they're going through so many different injustices all because of their gender. I never thought of that angle. I'm not sure if that's something that affects everybody worldwide, but now I can kind of like say, okay, well, that may be some of the causes to why I see so many women with that kind of persona, that masculine energy. For the most part, like up here in the states in Philadelphia, I know you're over in Jamaica. What this does is, as far as this inequality with genders and at the job, what this does to the women up here is almost like it gives all it makes women have that masculine persona, but one of the main things that I see it attacks family. So if the man isn't making what the woman makes, the same salary I'm talking about, they're not making the same thing. The woman normally goes and steps off, or she goes and start messing with the boss, or messing with someone at her job, because now, you know, the way people see it is status depends on salary. So if you're not matching what your mate is bringing home, then you're really no good to the family. So the reason why I was piggybacking off what you were saying, just to kind of bring the thought together, is because of one thing that we can see commonly is that all of this, all of this disruption is because of the same common problem, the same common enemy, and that's capitalism. And no matter what the effect of it is, it's always going to be a bad effect. I started to realize that capitalism has no good effects on it. There's no good outcome of it. But I just found it very interesting that may be some of the causation to why you see a lot of these women, because, like you were saying, a lot of those women that turn to that masculine persona, they normally do it to basically guard their position so they won't be abused, so they won't be taken advantage of, all kind of things. And it shouldn't be like that. And then you also have, like you mentioned, women not wanting to have families anymore, women not wanting to have children, do things that women, you know God gave them their bodies. They're naturally childbearers. They naturally bring forth children. And you have sisters, women that don't even want to do that anymore. Everybody wants to chase the bag. So I kind of found it very, very, very interesting that you brought that point up, because I never heard that perspective before. But that was awesome. I appreciate that.
Hey,
Absolutely.
I'm
Go
on the
ahead, Akish.
I'm on the road, so I'm trying to keep up as much as I can. But to piggyback on what Brother Brian was saying, not only are they not having children because they're chasing the bag, a lot of them, due to this system, are afraid to bear children for the fact that they may not be able to afford them. Henceforth, springing off, you got the abortion clinics, um, adoption agencies. You have all of these different things that are stepping in place of the mother's childbearing and her duties as a mother, but because of oppression due to this system that we all under. So I just wanted to bring that point out as well, the brother, in access to what Brother Brian was saying.
Absolutely. Comrades, the perspective that you're bringing is welcome, because it's just another dimension to what's been happening. The destruction of the family unit, destruction of the women, and the kids are suffering because now it's confusion. They have this masculine female as the head of the household, and it causes chaos in the society.
And I just want to add one more thing, Sister Sue, real quick, because I know you're reading, but really quick, to an individual who would object and say, "Well, there's nothing wrong with that." Maybe she doesn't want to have kids. Maybe to an individual that thinks like that, you must understand that the family structure, husband and wife and children, that is the foundation. The key word that I'm using is foundation. That is the foundation of society. So the reason why we here at the Global School of, the Biblical School of Global Liberation for All Oppressed People, the reason why we here at the Knesset, the reason why we uphold family, because we understand that it is the foundation of society. We understand that. We understand that this is how a community thrives. This is how a village is born, from this template, male and female and the children. This is the best way to get a productive, great society going. So that's why we advocate the family structure. Because you always have gainsayers. Well, this is the 21st century and we live in a new world. We can do whatever we want to. Not so. We've seen from history and decades, and from over the years, millennia, that male, female, children, that's the template. That's the way it works. That's the way it works best. So I just wanted to throw that inside there for all the gainsayers.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Brother Brian. So we're continuing on page 201, but there is a cartoon that says, "Why correct theory is important." Hypothesis: a bean and cheese taco is good, but I can make it even tastier, one with liver and even tastier one with liver and peppermint. And then one creature says to the other, "This one is for you." And I suppose that's the most that's the tastier one. Continuing on page 202, it says, "From the day we are born, women are under intense pressure to be submissive, quiet, pleasing, nurturing, accommodating, weak, and passive. We must overcome this social conditioning to assert ourselves, to take our place in the struggle, fighting to be effective revolutionaries, to assert our interests in our organizations and in other areas of our lives can be difficult, unpleasant, and exhausting. It's a long-term, active process that requires intense effort. But it's good for us. It makes us stronger. We have to become extremely strong if we hope to be able to fight this massive, ruthless global system. In any case, we have no real choice. We can become what we need to be only by being it within the field and process of struggle. We have to develop our capacity to insist that our voices are heard, to make our social power felt. This must be a collective effort within our broad movement to assert ourselves not in competition with one another, but to mutually assist each other to magnify our collective strength. My strength is your strength, and vice versa. The source of our strength as individuals, when we work together for our common goals, is the strength of our movement. Any orientation other than this will devolve into sectarianism, competition, individualism, elitism, and disunity, and will ensure our defeat. We need to mutually support and strengthen all of us on the side of the people, the popular masses. We need to back each other up, not tear each other down. Any disagreements among us are secondary at this time. Our primary antagonism is against capital, so we can have great diversity within our overall unity. Our unity doesn't have to be and can't be complete or comfortable. It exists for this specific historical moment to get us past a specific conjuncture and remove our biggest obstacle, which we can only do together. In the process, we can deal with other contradictions and solve other problems, and there are plenty. Continuing on page 203. When we have that larger vision of total emancipation, when we focus our lives, all we desire and work for on that, then our attitudes and practices that are a hindrance to us fall away in the process of common struggle. Then we are comrades, and the social categories we belong to become much less relevant, and the basis for them to one day totally disappear will be contingent upon our collective success. So, as Miss Macmillan says, we can't subject or succumb to individualism. We need a united face against our common enemy without gender biases or class biases, prejudices and elitism. All or nothing is what we must aspire.
This is excuse me, sis.
Yes, go ahead.
But yeah, this is the same thing that the scriptures call for, like when Christ say, any man that puts his hand to the plow and turn away is not fit for the kingdom. But what is he saying? He's saying that this unity, that this collective, that everyone must be a collective force join this body in order to push against the evils that these systems are bringing about. So for her to be, speaking about unity, and even if she's in the secular realm speaking about it, it still doesn't make her argument dishonest. It's very to the point and very productive in what's trying to be done. So the same unity she's calling for in her book here is the same unity that was called for in the scriptures thousands of years before she was even thought about.
Absolutely. And so this is how we know that we're on the right path. Because this is a secular author, and she is looking or speaking to us about organizing and being unified and working towards destroying our common enemy, and not to continue in the way that we have been taught, where we see each other as the enemy and not capitalism or the ruling class and the oppressive, exploitive system that we find ourselves in. So the next section deals with racism, the enemy's social tool. Shall I continue?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. The oppression of social categories of people, whether defined as caste, race, gender, sex, sexual orientation or expression, religion, immigration status, or others, isn't mainly a personal ideological problem, though it is also that. It's a social ideological tool wielded by dominant classes in capitalism or any other type of class-divided social formation to accomplish several things. One, to justify practices in the pursuit of wealth that would otherwise be universally resisted as insanely cruel if done to humans or any sentient beings. But since the other is dehumanized and objectified, it is rationalized as acceptable. Two, to force particular sections of the masses into more extreme situations of servitude and exploitation to maximize profit. And three, to cement divisions among the dominated classes so as to weaken our ability to transform society. In the US, the concept of race, a social construct with no biological basis, has been fluid, applied to various nationalities and arbitrarily defined categories of people in different ways at different times, in order to justify treating people as less than human. Starting with the genocide of indigenous people and moving through slavery and all the way to today's war on terror, and in countless other instances in between, race and racism have been used to excuse the violent policies that serve the accumulation of capital, and to gain the compliance of those groups not targeted or who are offered certain comparative advantages. Identity politics are a form of reformism, which is the ideology of the petite bourgeoisie. They defend their class privileges while also wanting everyone to be able to enjoy them. This is a source of the liberal, populist, non-class-based call for equality within the system's framework. The demand and desire for equality and justice are righteous. These are positive, progressive goals. Fighting for them can strengthen the unity of the popular masses and help get us closer to total social transformation. But this does not go far enough. The root of the problem must be addressed. The solution to racism often offered by the petite bourgeoisie is for individuals or institutions to stop being racist. Like other reformist solutions, individually refraining from racist and other oppressive behavior and language is, though absolutely necessary, insufficient. Adjusting institutional policies is likewise insufficient. Reformists always attempt to constrain resistance into paths and forms that may make them feel virtuous but won't actually ever win. Their efforts to mitigate specific forms of oppression may succeed, but capitalism can survive that. It can accommodate and adapt to equality and justice for any particular social category while still reproducing and enforcing class domination. Meanwhile, oppression itself will remain in the capitalist toolbox and will be used inevitably on someone. We can't end oppression without uprooting the entire foundation upon which it is based, the underlying social conditions that perpetuate and feed off it, the division of humanity into different classes and class domination. Many are reluctant to face that. They would like to imagine that they can create an egalitarian situation by changing their own or others' behavior, rather than making the kinds of sacrifices necessary for the waging of class war. It's not in the economic interest of the petite bourgeoisie to overturn the whole social structure, and so they don't really want to. In politics, as on the job, they are prepared to offer service, support, and improvements, not revolution. Petite bourgeois progressives who truly want to eliminate all forms of oppression must repudiate their own class interests and be willing to fight capitalism and imperialism in alliance with and under the leadership of the proletariat. Next section deals with class domination is not classism.
Hey, before you hit that, Sister Sue,
Yes.
she said that sorry about that here on my GPS, but like I said, I'm on the road. But she said the only way to end oppression is to end the foundation that it stands on, basically, right? And this is the same thing that, again, that the scriptures are teaching. Daniel 7, the great stone that was carved out without hand and cast into the earth and hit the great statue. What happened to the statue, which was, as we know, the statue represents uh, kingdom powers and the systems that those powers ran on. But the great stone, which we understand to be what? The kingdom of the Most High, which progressed from a small stone to a great mountain. But what happened when they hit the statue in the feet? It turned into powder, dust, and was carried away by the wind, which means that that whole system, the foundation, was taken out the way. The same thing that Stephanie McMillan is talking about here in the book, when she said that oppression, the only way to end it is to kill the whole foundation. And it's the same thing that the Bible upholds in scripture in Daniel 7 now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, comrade.
That was that was excellent, brother. Excellent. I wanted to add something to it real quick, Sister Sue, before you go on. But I mean, wow, I guess, man, I know you're on the road, brother. But man, hats off to you, brother. That was excellent, excellent. I just wanted to say real quick when Sister Sue, when you was reading about Miss McMillan was talking about racism. I know, of course, we do experience and we see the stuff on social media, the different crazes like the Karen thing. where sometimes, Karen might slip up and say something that's racially charged. But, after I was looking at, so what I want to say, let me finish my thought. I wanted to say is that we do see, certain instances of racism still today. You might go down somewhere in the South and you might encounter racism. But what I really saw that was interesting, the same techniques that they use in racism, which are these prejudices, these prejudice techniques, they're now using, as you said earlier, Sister Sue, with the vaccination. So with the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, they're using those same, techniques of prejudice. You know what I mean? So they create divisions between us because, hey, those people over there are pro-vaccination. Those people over there are anti-vaccination. Stay away from those people. Those people getting everybody sick, and it's an age-old trick, the divide and conquer business. And I just wanted to bring out the fact that it's so weak. This system and the way it's all held together is so weak. All we have to do is be more better at exposing it, I guess, and being able to do that on a large scale and open the people's eyes up to it. Because I mean, it's the same age old tricks, that this the same spill over and over again. I mean, when you look at what she was talking about, I think that's well, I know we start on page 203, but everything after racism, the enemy social tool, when you looked at everything she was saying about the inequality and, she had mentioned something. I wanted to get it real quick. I don't want to take up too much time. Lord
No,
have
go ahead,
mercy.
Brother Brian. Take your time.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. It's, yeah, and on page 204 in the second paragraph, she says identity politics are a form of reformism, which is the ideology of the petite bourgeoisie. They defend their class privileges while also wanting everyone to be able to enjoy them. This is a source of the liberal populist, non-class based call for equality within the system's framework. And she went on to say some more. She says the demand and desire for equality and justice are righteous. These are positive, progressive goals. Fighting for them can strengthen the unity of the popular masses and help get us closer to total social transformation. But this doesn't go far enough. The root of the problem must be addressed. Like Ish brought up the scriptures with Daniel, but I want to continue reading. We got to attack it at the root, strike it at the foundation. I want to keep going. It says the solution to racism, often offered by the petite bourgeoisie, is for individuals or institutions to stop being racist, like other reformist solutions. Individually refraining from racist and other oppressive behavior and language is, though absolutely necessary, insufficient. Adjusting institutional policies is likewise insufficient. Reformers always attempt to constrain resistance into paths and forms that may make them feel virtuous, but won't actually ever win. Their effort to mitigate specific forms of oppression may succeed, but capitalism can survive that. So it's like, it's very, it's real devious. You know what I mean? They create problems and then they fix the problem up so they can continue to accumulate wealth and profit. So they'll in other words, they'll create mass hysteria. Like with the COVID, they'll create, and I'm not saying that COVID is not a real thing, because people do pass away from it. I know people that passed away from it, personal people that passed away from it, that had it. So I'm not saying that I don't believe that it's a conspiracy. No, COVID is a real thing, but I'm saying they will create situations, right, to cause all of this panic and make everybody lose their minds and go crazy. Then they'll fix it up. They'll come out with some policies. Everybody got to get vaccinated, right? And then capitalism survives it. But in all, the whole underlying thing that I'm trying to say, or I'm trying to convey to the audience and you guys online right now, is that the motive is always going to be some type of profit. It's always some money to be made with these guys. These guys don't do nothing just to do it. It's not about power. It's not about being the biggest, better. It's all about profit. So if we always follow that, we'll start to see how weak they are. And we have to start realizing, how can we interrupt their profit? How can we interrupt? You know what I mean? And I know Miss McMillan's going to, give us some more stuff towards the end of the book of how to do that. But I just found it so interesting that she was saying what she was saying, and it's like only thing I'm seeing now, because the world we living in is 2021. We're living in this post and pre-vaccinated world where everything is crazy, and I see now this COVID thing more as a I see it more as a tool, is more as a weapon, a biological weapon, in order for the capitalists once again to fatten their pockets. You know what I mean? Even though again it is a real disease, but I just started noticing it when she was talking about racism. The same prejudices they create. So you can't go in the store if you aren't vaccinated. You know, you can't come to work if you aren't vaccinated. You can't do this and the third. And they create divisions between the working people, between us. You know, now I don't want to come to your house. You don't want to come to house. You know, we're gonna stay 6 feet apart. And what another thing I want to bring out about that is that the reason why that's so important for them to do that is because the less they get us to unify, whether it be through racism or through a vaccine, the less they get us to unify, we're weak and we're not strong. You know what I mean? It's only a small percentage of the rich that run and rule this world. The rest of the world is poor. So the best way to keep that mass of people, you know, in ignorance and in darkness is to break them up. You know, split them up, put them over here. Let these people over here think that they Hawaiian. Let these people over here think that they African American. Let them think that they Orientals, and give them all these different divisions, and let that split them up so they won't come together as a collective. I remember not too long ago, Elder was doing the teaching on about how when they came together, they all spoke the same tongue, and they built a city, a building or a statue up to heaven. You know what I mean? So imagine if the people come together and they came together on the day of Pentecost and they all spoke the same tongue, and men can do great things together. So we keep seeing that the capitalists, they understand all these different, you know, what's it called, another I don't want to lose ramble on, but the capitalists, they understand a lot of different things. They understand how a lot of things work, and the main thing they understand is that unification is key. And as long as they can create division amongst the people, as long as they can keep the people separated, then man, they keep going along in their power. They keep going along, you know, full speed ahead. But it was just interesting that she brought that out, and I just saw that same tool of prejudice. That's to put, they always put that prejudice there, and they make somebody, you know, the scapegoat. It's interesting, man. It shows you how weak they are. They use the same things over and over again, yet the people, you know, they don't even realize it. But that's all I wanted to say, sister. I'm sorry about that.
That's true for the brand. Thank you for that. That's true because when they started the vaccination drive, um, the tagline was to get back to normal, or to get back to your life, you should take the vaccine. And so it was seen as for persons who wanted to travel or to go out to entertainment places, restaurants, and so on. So it wasn't really appealing to the masses because the vaccine does prevent you from catching COVID. Um, they say it minimizes the effect for some people anyway. But when they saw that the level of vaccine hesitancy was increasing, they turned the screws even more now to say, well, if you want to continue to work in the hospitals or these essential services, then you must be vaccinated. And so these things are popping up because um, people are hesitant. They don't trust the government. They don't trust the pharmaceuticals. So they're now attacking what people would consider to be your livelihood now. If you can't work, then how do you feed your family? And it's not like the government is going to sustain you for the rest of your life. So this is how they're desperate in trying to retain their stronghold over the populace. They are using any means necessary to keep people oppressed. And the whole situation with COVID is exposing a lot of what people weren't observing about the system that we're in.
Absolutely, sister. So absolutely, absolutely. I mean, no, I don't think any of us would ever imagine, you know, 10 or even 5 or 3 years ago that we would become human beings. I mean, we would become actual commodities. And I mean, not that we already weren't. You know what I mean? We were already slaving for our bosses, whatever jobs that we had. But what I'm saying is that we would never thought that it would be a do or die situation. You know what I mean? Like you said, you don't get vaccinated, you don't take care of your family. What happens to your family? So you know what I mean? They're this is a desperation hour. And I mean, in order to hold together, as you said, their evil social system. This is a, you know what I mean, I guess it's this is their last stance, you know what I mean, against all freedom, against all that's good and righteous. They're gonna put, they're gonna put it straight down on the table. And I think that what's awesome about it is that now we see what is really important to people. It's this money. It's these draft tickets, as Elder would say. So now the world kind of sees what's really in charge. I mean, I know we've heard over the years, cash rules everything around me, and it's all about the money. And we hear all these different things, these different people have like different slogans about money and stuff like that. But I know me, I never looked at it like it was everything. But now when you see that, oh, if you don't do such and such and such and take this shot, you can't feed your family. Now it becomes everything. So it's also it's kind of weird how it is. It's also like at the same time people are being forced into taking this shot. It's also on the underhand giving you this ideal that this money is everything, right? Because
Yes.
you need that money to feed your family. So now this money becomes more idolized now. So even if this situation doesn't work out in our favor, whereas though capitalism falls flat on its face, and that's what we pray that the Almighty allows us and others who are advocating for its elimination and destruction to happen. If that doesn't happen, still they go unnoticed, and people more and more keep idolizing money, keep idolizing this system because, hey, look, this is the only thing gonna get us out of our situation. It's the only thing gonna help us eat. Is we take this shot, and everybody take the shot, and everybody okay. We can go back to eating bread and enjoying. So now people are more and more fascinated, or not fascinated, but now people are more and more intrigued and more pumped up and excited to make money and to keep this system going, a system of plundering and robbery. And they don't know on the back end is really destroying the planet. And I mean, it's going to be consequences either way. Maybe not now, but the consequences are still going to be there in the future. But it's just now, if if what we're trying to do doesn't strike a deep enough blow, or whoever else is on our side doesn't strike a deep enough blow to the capitalists, what's going to happen is that money is going to be put back at the top shelf again. Salary and paychecks, all that stuff is going to go right back at the apple of everybody's eye, and everybody's going to blindly chase after it still because they putting it in front of you. You want this dollar, or you want to starve and die. So it's just it's really, man,
A vicious
it's
cycle.
a terrible thing. A vicious cycle. Yeah, that's the best.
Vicious
That's the best.
cycle.
That's the best way to describe it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll let you continue. I'm sorry, sis.
Thanks, Brother Brand. So continuing on the bottom of page 205, class domination is not classism. Intersectionality theory offers the concept of a grid of oppressions with intersecting points. It proposes class as a category of oppression. But though these struggles are bound up together, they are not equivalent. Class is not an identity, and class struggle is not a struggle against classism. It is not an effort to end hatred or discrimination between members of different classes or to win equal rights. As the saying goes, members of all classes are already equally forbidden to steal bread. Class is not simply another form of oppression. Class is qualitatively different. Under capitalism, class domination underpins the rest. It determines the way everything else is manifested in these times. It is domination structured as a whole matrix of social relations in the economic, political, and ideological fields, all ultimately determined by the economic. The process of exploitation of labor is in the production of surplus value, which is the core mechanism of capitalism. Class domination keeps the system running. Class emancipation is the only thing that can stop it. Instead of aiming to puncture one of the tires, we need to crack the engine. In the capitalist era, the fundamental contradiction in society is between capital and labor. The reason it's important to identify society's fundamental contradiction is so that we can focus our efforts at its most vital spot and break it apart. Sorry. We can move beyond capitalism only if that specific contradiction is pushed through to resolution, ending in the destruction of capital. Where we locate the fundamental contradiction of the society determines our strategy, which in turn determines our daily priorities. We need to concentrate on where we can have the most impact, the highest potential to destroy the entire social system, a system that encompasses but is larger than any one of its many particular evil aspects. Revolution doesn't solve everything. With all that said, the long term goal of a totally classless society has many steps that will inevitably fall short of that. The defeat and expropriation of the capitalist class by the working class is but one major step or key nodal point manifested by revolution, one that is necessary and may be achievable in our historical era. It does not mean that classes and oppression would be at once eliminated, but it would open a door to that possibility in a way that the rupture of any other social contradiction could not do. A victorious proletarian revolution will not mean that we will automatically achieve utopia. After this major turning point, there will be continuing social antagonisms and continual struggle, including class struggle. The effort to break down and fully eliminate classes and all forms of domination will likely take generations. Fighting oppression must not be postponed until after the victory of the working class over capital. At the same time, we need to recognize that a total end to oppression cannot be achieved or separated out from eliminating classes.
Hey, she said to reach a totally classless society, it's going to take many steps. But look at that right there. Like, we can't even imagine. I know I can't. And if anybody else can, let me know. Can you imagine what a totally classless society looks like? What would, how do you even get there? What is that? Because through our documented history or modern history per se, we've always been under a class system. How does that even look? Would we even know how to act? Like if something happened tomorrow, a nuclear weapon dropped and hit somewhere, and it left 200,000 people alive in the whole world. That 200,000 people, how would they survive? What do they know about anything other than the class that they're under or that modern history has taught them? So, that's just something to think about, just how deep a classless society is, the same classless society that the scriptures speak about, that the kingdom of God is. We don't even have a clue of what the kingdom of heaven really is as far as the classless society is concerned. We can't even unpack that. At least I can't.
Would you think it'd be safe to say when the scripture says, no eye have seen or no ear has heard? You know what I mean? I always think about that scripture when I think about, because class society to me would be paradise, would be heaven. It would be, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So that's how I always imagined the classless society. You know what I mean? It would be this beautiful city. So I always equate that to it when it says no eye have seen or no ear has heard. You know what I mean? I always equate that when Christ told him that. I always equate that to that classless society. Because like you said, it's unimaginable. You can't even, half of us wouldn't even know what to do. I mean, through patience and prayer and us reading and meditating upon the scriptures, hopefully a lot of the answers, if that day arrives and we're living, God willing, we'll have the answers to certain things, to solve or resolve certain conflicts. But other than that, even I'm in the same boat as you, brother. I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know where to start. You know what I mean? Because it's, it'd be like, that deep sigh, like, it's finally over. You know what I mean? Wiping all the tears from my eyes, it's finally over. That vicious cycle, that Sister Suda's, coin phrase, that vicious cycle, we finally out of it. It's finally over. But man, you're absolutely right that you can't even think about how, what kind of world would that be? You know what I mean? No more oppression. And I mean, no more exploitation. All that stuff is done away with. No more death. No more
Hey, but
violence. No more.
look, the common man, like the reason they fight so hard for the system, because their only hope is in their money or their wealth. That's why the scriptures say, whose God is their belly, because this is all that they know. And so when something like that occurs, the great saying comes into play.
Hey, brother, your mic is breaking up really bad.
Okay, I'm in the woods right now, so okay, I'm gonna back off, let somebody have it.
Oh, thank you for letting the brother know, because I thought it was my mic, because sometimes I be having bad connection. But shalom, that sounds like Elder Benaiah. Shalom, Elder.
Shalom, shalom, everyone.
Sister Sue, that you want to continue on, or is that the end, mostly the end of your section?
Yes, Brother Brian, I believe I did two sections instead of one. So I'm open to another reader continuing on page 211.
Well, that's actually my section. I wonder, Elder Benaiah, do we still have time, or do you think we should wait? How do you think we should do this? Did Elder Judah want us to continue on? Because if so, I'll keep reading. Doesn't make me a difference.
Shalom, shalom, Brother Judah. So Brother Judah said, we'll wait until next week. But I think it was a wonderful discussion. Everyone just had really great insight. Yeah, just a really great discussion. Great examples. Akish was on point. Sister Sue, Brother Bryant, you all, did a great job. So yes, Most High willing, we'll continue next week with page 11, 211. And I think that's going into my section.
Oh, that's
Is
right.
it
Oh, yeah, that's
who?
right. Because my section is, I think,
Brother
two
Bryant.
sections.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, because I think Sister Sue read your section, Elder.
The list of
Let me see.
because I was trying to find a PDF at the list of hold on, please. So another thing, I know we were talking about, you know, classless society and what that looks like. And there have been examples throughout history, and even now there are small, you know, intentional communities that have tried it and are trying it, experimental. But most high willing, we will explore what those societies have looked like and what some of those look like now also, so that we can get, you know, a better picture. But there are examples in the past and present.
So, Elder, do you think that next week you probably can bring the information out? Or we're gonna wait till another time, I guess.
We'll see. I'll talk with Brother Judah and see how, you know, how he wants to present that. But, you know, more than likely we'll try to explore it a little bit next week. God willing.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That sounds good. That sounds good. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you all. Hallelujah. So this is concluding our Capitalism Must Die NMP book dialogue. And with our reader today, Sister Sue, thank you so much for your reading and sharing. And until next time, it's Brother Bryant. Brother Bryant is next week. He'll start us
Yes,
off
ma'am.
on page
I'll
211.
have some notes and I'll have some notes and some dialogue. Maybe we can talk about it and bring some certain things about take my time through my section, just like Sister Sue did. Now,
That's right.
maybe we can generate conversation and all that.
That's right. That's right.
God willing. God willing. Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. Brother Judah's been listening. While of course he's always, you know, working on his lessons and so on. So he's been listening, and you know, he is just excited. He said it sound, you know, good, and he's just really excited, you know, about brothers and sisters, you know, taking on the helm and presenting, and feeling, you know, I hear confidence, you know, I hear clarity, and that's, you know, that's what we're trying to do, you know, for each other, and sharing this gospel, you know, together out into the world. So, you know, I thank the Most High for all of you. Hallelujah. Okay.
All right, shalom, everybody.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Shalom.